Hello guys, in today's video we'll take a look at one of the most common and biggest problems we face when shooting landscape compositions. And it doesn't matter if we are shooting with DSLR, mirrorless or just a smartphone. Welcome again. My name is Smid. I'm a holder of the highest photographic title Master Qualified European Photographer MasterQuap. I've been organizing photography workshops and photo expeditions around the world for more than 13 years. And I am also one of the world's 25 ambassadors of the legendary Carl Zeiss brand. I'm doing this channel together with my colleagues Paul and Martin, who come with me on expeditions as lecturers. As I said at the beginning, today we are going to fight the problem that stands against us in almost every landscape photography compositions where we need to combine the sky and the landscape in one shot. From what I've said, I'm sure it's already clear to most of you what we are going to talk about. That's how to get the best exposure out of photography. Ideally, the sky should be nicely rendered with no overexposure. The only acceptable overexposure in the sky is the sun itself. Why? Because the intensity of the sunlight is so high that we just cannot see the texture in the sun itself. The only exception might be the sun very close to sunrise in case it's in a really thick haze. However, this is a very rare situation. But even in this case, you will not see any texture in the sun. It just will not be blown out. I found only one photo in my archive that could document what I just said. It's maybe, I don't know, 10 years old panel. But you can see that the sun is in a haze after sunrise, not letting any light to shine into the landscape. And if there was no heavy haze, the mist would be beautifully illuminated by now. So we want to properly expose sky without blown out areas. That's the goal. But it's not all. We also want to see the landscape properly exposed so that the landscape is not a black silhouette. I will get a bit off topic now. Why do we want a sky not to be blown out and landscape to be pure black? Because neither clipped highlights nor clipped shadows belong in landscape photography. There are nothing but white or black places without any texture. I always tell photographers on expeditions that if they have clipped highlights or shadows in a photo, they should print the photo, take scissors and cut out the white and black spots without texture. Why? Because there's just nothing in those parts of the photo. Those parts are totally useless. So if you look at the landscape, do we really see a blown out sky or a black silhouette landscape? No, never. We clearly see both the sky and the landscape. This is because human vision is truly perfect and can perceive huge differences between light and shadow. Our cameras are much worse, and even the best ones cannot come even close to human vision with their dynamic range. But let's head back to our exposure problem. All of us can probably remember our beginnings in landscape photography. We found that if we pointed the camera more towards the sky, the built-in exposure meter would measure the brightness of the scene, and in some semi-automatic program, usually like aperture priority, adjust the time to make the sky blown out free. Then all you have to do is to fix the settings, recompose a little lower to get the ideal sky-landscape ratio, and expose. But damn, the sky was great, but what about the landscape? Completely black. So, if we went the other way, the landscape was perfectly exposed, but the sky was one big wash with no texture. Since it's very impossible to get any kind of texture out of an overexposed sky, most photographers have learned to expose to the sky. And they try get at least something from completely underexposed landscape by brightening it. The result is far from being ideal. There is very little, image information in the shadows. So if we lighten the shadows too much, we get unpleasant noise and various artifacts in the photo. That's why so-called graduated ND filters come into use. We have one here. These filters are half clear, half dark ND filters, as you can see. And they can have soft, right here, or hard transition. Just by putting a filter on with dark half upside, the sky becomes darker to make the landscape. But now we have a new problem. The sky is fine, but in addition to the sky, the upper parts of the mountains are dark, treetops are dark, hilltops are dark, while their bottom parts are still bright. I am sure you have seen plenty of photos taken with the graduated filters. Shame. Is this what the scene actually looked like? No way. The trees and rocks and mountains were equally light or dark, but not half light. Not to mention that if we shoot directly into the sun, one graduated filter is often not enough, and we have to layer two filters on top of each other. Still, the result is a waste of words. You know, graduated filters are a photographic prehistory. It's a simple but outdated technique that doesn't belong in modern landscape photography. Okay, but how to do it better, in a modern way? Smartphones, mentioned at the beginning, may be a hint. They have HDR mode, high dynamic range mode, which means that the phone automatically takes dark, medium and light exposures and combines them into one photo. According to its algorithm, it takes the best tonal part of each photo to create a result that is correctly exposed in all its parts. This method increases the dynamic range of smartphone chips and brings them closer, at least a little, to the dynamic range of human vision. Our cameras have a similar mode. We just don't want the camera to do anything automatically for us. The camera is supposed to be our servant, but not our master. So in modern landscape photography, we use so-called exposure bracketing. Just like smartphone, we take one photo dark, one medium, and one light. However, we don't leave the blending to camera's algorithm, but we blend them ourselves in post-process. To do this, we just need, I don't know, Adobe Camera, Lightroom, Photoshop, Capture One, or other similar software. What are the advantages of exposure bracketing? Based on dynamic range of our scene, we choose the bracketing range and number of shots. Do we shoot directly into the sun, I don't know, an hour before sunset? Then the sun is high, still very intense, and we have to choose a larger bracketing range or even a large number of bracketed exposures. If we shoot a few minutes before sunset and still facing into the light, then the light intensity will be much lower and we'll be fine with a small bracketing range and fewer exposures. Another advantage, the second, is that exposure bracketing can be used in any kind of scene. Let's imagine we are shooting a single shot with high mountains. We already know that with a graduated filter, the tops of the mountains will be dark and the bottom parts will be light. Let's assume we are shooting a panorama of mountains. With the graduated filter, the result would be very ugly indeed. One dark mountain top next to another. With exposure bracketing, the resulting photo will look completely natural, and it doesn't matter whether we shoot a single shot or a panorama of mountains. By a very simple masking, we can choose which part of what photo to use for the sky, which part for the landscape. Have you tried shooting with exposure bracketing? If yes, please share your experience in the comments below. And that's all for today, guys. We hope you liked our video and give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. By the way, are you wondering how to practically take photos with exposure bracketing? For the bracketing range to set, how many exposures do we need? Then you can look forward to one of our next videos where we will go into the field with the camera, of course. So see you next week and bye.